We just got it. Let's continue. That doesn't imply that it's a fantastic scene. It simply indicates that it's a good scene. The Bandit and Smokey weren't just another film. It was a cultural experience throughout the 1970s. Funny, fast automobile scenarios, as well as that memorable the rapport between Burt Reynolds and it was a box office success, thanks to Sally Field, that no one anticipated. However, even legendary make mistakes. In between the roaring pursuit scenarios and engines, there were funny blunders that nevertheless managed to into the last cut. Although some fans discovered them years later, while some didn't observe at all. From absent props to more on continuity errors can be found here that more than what first glances reveal. Together, let's take a more thorough examination of the film, its actors, it's the times that passed by the editors. The film that led to past. The Bandit and Smokey aren't just another comedy with action. Published in it became one of the biggest hits in 1977 of its era. Burt starred in the movie. Reynolds, Jackie Gleason, Sally Field, Paul, Pat McCormick, and Jerry Reed, Mike Henry, and Williams. A cast that charm, comedy, and anarchy were all expertly blended. Bandit Darville was the protagonist of the tale, performed by Reynolds, and his companion Reed's portrayal of Cletus Snowman Snow. They were both truck drivers on RE Sky 400 case smuggling mission from Texas to Atlanta, of Coors beer. Something that was prohibited at the time because east of Texas, Coors was not sold. That as Snowman maneuvered the vehicle loaded with Bandit, diverted the police's attention with beer in his gleaming black Pontiac. Trans Am from 1977. Their strategy is to keep the police occupied while the beer arrived home without incident. However, things become erratic as Bandit picked up the character of Sally's fugitive wife, Carrie Field. Bandit became a target after her escape. A loud shout for Sheriff Buford T. Justice and Jackie's humorous portrayal of a lawman Gleason. What came next was among the movie's most entertaining automobile chases past. Packed with collisions, near misses, and humorous timing. The movie wasn't simply about smuggling beer and fast vehicles. It was about the rebellious spirit, liberty, and unadulterated enjoyment. It brought in $127 million in box office receipts, a huge success in relation to its meager $4.3 budget of millions. It turned become the second 1977's highest-grossing film, immediately following Star Wars. That's no minor thing. Agreement. And this achievement continued. There. As a result, Smokey and the Bandit series with follow-ups and many allusions to popular culture. However, how made a film on beer and truckers that turned into such a phenomenon? The narrative behind its creation is equally as thrilling as the movie itself. The fantasy of a stuntman transformed into a masterpiece. The individual responsible for the Hal Needham was not your usual Hollywood filmmaker. Indeed, Smokey that was his first time with the Bandit. Guiding. He was a stunt before to it point one of the greatest in the business guy. He had hoped to transform his outrageous acts into an passion for driving into a movie. At first, he intended to make it a tiny spend money on a fun movie, but straightforward, about $1 million in cost. He intended for Jerry Reed to perform the convincing studios wasn't Bandit. Simple. Needham was viewed by most producers as basically not someone who could, but a stuntman helm a successful film. That was altered when Burt Reynolds, the most well-known actor in the script, was read by the world at the time. Reynolds was a friend of Needham's, and even despite telling him that was the worst despite having read the script before, he concurred to carry it out. That one choice was different. Everything. Having Reynolds on board, the project was abruptly taken on by studios. Really. Jerry Reed, changed to Nim, was playing Snowman when he finally received his opportunity to establish his worth. But he had a rough time at Universal Studios. 2 days prior to the start of filming, they cut $1 million from the allocated funds. That departed only $3.3 million remains for Needham after Reynolds' $1 million compensation was paid. However, rather than surrendering, Needham and his David Hamburger, assistant director, and labored nonstop for 30 hours to reorganize the filming. That perseverance paid off. Despite having a limited budget, they produced one among the most enduring movies of the 10 years. The characters' enchantment as well as cast. The individuals featured in Smokey and the Bandit gained notoriety due to how humorous and genuine they seemed. Manufactured originated with the actors and their chemistry. Gleason, Jackie, who performed Buford T. Justice, the sheriff, brought his personal touch to the role. In fact, he was granted complete autonomy to improvise and arrive. He came up with his own lines. Gleason's witty remarks. The sheriff was one of those with a sharp tongue, the most comical antagonists in the film past. Actually, a lot of his most there were no well-known scenes in the script that appreciate the part where Bandit and Buford first meet that unaware of his identity in a diner. Gleason came up with the entire idea. Even Buford T. Justice had a backstory behind it. It originated in a genuine Florida member of the Highway Patrol who was recognized for the father of Burt Reynolds, who was formerly the police chief at Florida's Riviera Beach. Additionally, the sheriff's preferred term, some originated from Reynolds' father as well, a term that he frequently used. Sally Field, however, only joined the film following her agent's persuasion that it was the excellent action. Executives at Universal didn't initially desire her. They believed she wasn't sufficiently handsome, but Reynolds, who already had a lot of fame, persisted that she will be cast. Both of them rose to fame. On-screen chemistry between pals become a contributing factor to the decline in audience enamored with the film. Field subsequently stated that the film was largely improvised. The humor, the lines, the timing. It felt natural because of that spontaneity. Not coerced. It was more than a movie. It was a journey full of individuality and charm. Music, bloopers, and enduring heritage. Smokey's production and the Bandit was a creative person and a genius at the last minute. The actual script underwent numerous modifications prior to filming. In the preliminary version, Sally Carey wasn't the name of Field's character. Her name was Kate. Little and Big Enos. They gave Enos the names Dickie and Kyle. There was no reward for finishing the beer run. Money as well. The plan was for it to be a brand new truck. And the well-known vehicle wasn't initially even the same model. It was replaced by the elegant 1977 Pontiac. Fans continued to love Trans Am. The music then started. The theme of the film Eastbound and Down, a song, became an hit right away. Jerry Reed, who performed Snowman, wrote it quite immediately. When he presented it to the director, Needham didn't initially respond, causing Reed anxious. Reed suggested rewriting it, but famously, Needham said to him, "If you change, I'll strangle you with only one word or sound." Later, that song became one of Reed's most well-liked and emblematic films. Spirit of Freedom. The outfits also had a significant impact. The Western way Gleason's sheriff's uniform and his attire were designed just for Never Western wear of Fort Worth, Texas. They influenced the film's audaciously Southern persona. The film also arrived at the ideal moment, the CB radio fad of the 1970s. Radio and truckers, the film resonated with lovers. Immediately. Smokey's success and the even shows like The Bandit helped bring about From Dukes of Hazzard to TV. Speaking, did you know, for example, that 3 future The Dukes of Hazzard cast members appears in the film in a brief uncredited parts, such as those of Ben Jones, Sonny Schroyer, and John Schneider. Years later, Burt Reynolds himself came back, playing Boss Hogg in the Favre 2005 motion picture adaptation of The Dukes of Risk. From its modest origins as a stuntman's aspiration to become a pop star phenomena of culture, Smokey and the Bandit demonstrated that a lot of energy, a sense of humor and teamwork could transform a low-budget concept into a classic. Every blunder, every pursuit, and each phrase is delivered with charm and assistance. Make it a memorable experience. A film that continues to make audiences chuckle, applaud, and every time the Bandit strikes the road. Additionally, although fans continue to rejoice about its, few people are aware of frantic chases and humorous charm. How everything started. The concept behind this blockbuster was not produced by a studio. Boardroom or a large-scale budget proposal. It began with something even more basic and a little surprising. How a beer issue turned into a film concept. When stuntman Hal Needham was working as Burt in Georgia, Reynolds serves as the film's stunt double. In 1976, Gator A. Few cases were presented to him by someone on site out of Californian Coors beer. Needham placed his hotel refrigerator's beer, but he observed a humorous thing. The maid maintained taking them. At that moment, he recalled reading a Time magazine story regarding the fact that Coors beer was illegal east of the Mississippi River for sale. Why? The product was not pasteurized and had to remain cold, which was challenging to be shipped. The sale of cores was limited to 11 states in the West and Southwest, which means that those on the East Coast were unable to obtain it. Suddenly, Needham believed that stealing cores would be an excellent movie plot. Additionally, that was the pivotal event that led to one of the most well-known Hollywood road movies past. However, when he presented his concept to Burt, his roommate and close friend Reynolds, not everybody believed it to be a fantastic plan. Why? Sally and Burt nearly refused. Hal Nim was alive at the time to in the pool house of Burt Reynolds and had been for over 12 years. They performed well, buddies, but they had such hectic schedules that busy that they seldom ever saw one another. One Nim approached Reynolds that day with the handwritten screenplay for a film on yellow legal pads. After reading it, Reynolds said, "If you have the funds to shoot," he said, "I'll play the lead in it." However, Reynolds' friends were appalled. In line with his memoirs, they delved into their knees, their eyes watering, and pleaded with me not to. They believed it was detrimental to his career and too hazardous. However, Reynolds went because he trusted Needham. Go ahead and do it nonetheless. Sally Field, who had reservations and played Carrie Frog, but for a completely different cause. I did Smokey and the Bandit," he remarked. Considering that Sybil was coming out and what the work is, everyone exclaimed that remarkable, but Sally Field is a male. Unattractive. She remembered that remark. When one of the biggest celebrities is Burt Reynolds. In Hollywood, I personally called and requested her to appear in the film. She was startled. She said, "There was no script. The most of it was improvised," although she made the decision to accept the position, believing, "If I portray Burt as this character, thought to be attractive, perhaps everyone will find me attractive." Additionally, it proved to be a wise decision. The movie was a success, and there the chemistry on film made it remarkable. What's even more incredible is the extent to which the film was fabricated as they cooperated. The actors enjoyed themselves, the manufactured moments and improvised sentences that continue to amuse audiences today. The comedy, the automobiles, and the mayhem. When Nim began filming, he had a strong mental image of fast automobiles. He witnessed wild stunts and a lot of laughter at a magazine featuring a Pontiac Trans Am and believed it would be the ideal vehicle for. He contacted Pontiac and inquired about for the production use of 6 automobiles. Only 4 were sent by Pontiac. Needham additionally requested 4 Bonnevilles for police vehicles owned by Sheriff Buford, but got just 2. By the end of the filming, 3 Trans Ams were fully destroyed, and the 4th one refused they had to force it into the starting last scene to give the impression that it was sprinting. When the moment arrived for Needham ensured Smokey and the Bandit 2 that would not occur once more. He requested 55 Bonnevilles and 10 Trans Ams. Pontiac didn't hesitate this time. But cars weren't the only thing that caused issues. Prior to the start of manufacturing, someone was dispatched by Universal Studios to Atlanta will bring unpleasant news. The movie's there was a $1 million decrease to the budget. The estimated total was $5.30 million. However, Needham now had $4.3 million to work with, given that Burt Reynolds' pay was $1 million alone, leaving just $3.3 million to produce the full film. Nevertheless, Needham persevered, adapting timetables and taking shortcuts where he could. He made every penny matter. The film somehow ended up looking a lot greater than its allocated funds. Initially, the script was also very different. LaRue was Bandit's last name. Carrie S. Kate was her name, and the award for the beer run didn't cost $80,000 to complete. Even the Bandit's truck was brand new. The vehicle was not intended to be a Trans Am initially. It's amusing how much the film altered before to its release in theaters, and how it was made even better by all those adjustments. Some of the greatest bloopers and bantersome facts regarding Smokey and the Bandit occurred by chance. Jackie Gleason, Sheriff Buford T. Justice was portrayed by was an exceptionally talented comedian. Initially, the studio had desired an actor for the part, Richard Boone, but Burt Reynolds stated that he desired a little more insane, somewhat riskier, and a much funnier. Consequently, Gleason was hired and made it entirely his own. Buford T. Justice's persona was genuinely modeled after an actual individual that Reynolds' father, a police chief in Florida, once knew. According to the genuine Buford, some rather than son of a that delighted Gleason, who adopted the phrase and incorporated it into his persona's character. However, Gleason didn't merely hardly read the script, but he followed it. Later, Reynolds claimed that Gleon never in the script. He said only one word that created things on the fly, such as the toilet paper trailing out of the scene his pant leg as he exits a barbecue restaurant. There was no strategy for that time. It was all Gleon. He also had a humorous code on set. Word. Every time he informed his helper Mal in reality, his desire for a hamburger meant he requested a tumbler of whiskey. There are numerous scenes in the film that seem at the ideal moment. There was one thing the public did not witness. Burt Reynolds and Gleason was expected to divulge more. Screen time. However, following the filming of their Reynolds' first scene together allegedly requested that the director remove all the others. Nobody ever explained why. The soundtrack that characterized the film arrived last-minute collaboration. Jerry Reed, who composed and sung in addition to playing Cletus Down and Eastbound. He assured Hal he would need to prepare a song, but at the conclusion of the shoot, he had yet to write. Consequently, he remained up one night and wrote overnight. And in the morning, Needham sat silently as it was played for him, but momentarily. Reed expressed concern, saying, "If I can alter it if you don't like it." Needham answered right away, "If you change, I'll murder you with one fucking note." That became one of Reed's most popular songs to write in the middle of the film's music. Even the well-known filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock adored the movie. Patricia, his daughter, disclosed that each Wednesday he showed films in his workspace, and that the final one he ever saw was Smokey, and his favorite movie was The Bandit in his last years. Evidence that even the suspenseful master couldn't help but enjoyable vehicle chase, some amusement, and Arbel for a cause. However, even a traditional like The Bandit and Smokey weren't free from mistakes. Roadside mishaps, the one of the most hilarious errors, occurs when Justice the Sheriff is halted at a barricade. A truck passes by and strikes his open, knocking off the automobile door. However, when the camera pans out, the door ice abruptly back and completely closed. One more amusing one. When a police vehicle at rolling off an embankment, the roadblock into the river, beginning in the late 1960s Ford Galaxy. Nevertheless, upon landing at the bottom, it transforms into another scene. Plymouth Fury the Bandit is simply driving in the rain. Prior to collecting Carrie, you can clearly, there are two individuals seated in the vehicle. Despite the fact that he is meant to be a one, and in some way, know of how Munoz the Bandit rushes down dusty rural roads. It seems like his gleaming black Trans Am never get filthy. It's immaculate in every subsequent shot. Additionally, there's a scene where Buford T. Justice, the sheriff, collides on a bridge and his car's hood slants out. Of form, but after a few scenes, it is inexplicably repaired. Like newerers may not destroy the narrative, but undoubtedly, they make rewatching the movie a bit more enjoyable. You begin to take note of things you didn't previously, such as uncovering secrets that are hidden from view, humorous reasoning, and factual flaws. Beyond automobile collisions and spotless cars, the film also has a few factual mistakes that make you wonder about it. Sheriff Justice constantly claiming that he is being pursued of the robber, but legally, his hunt would stop as soon as he couldn't see him. And given that the robber spends the majority of the film far forward, Buford's assertion that then, hot pursuit isn't very durable. The beer issue is present. Snowman's 400 cases are reportedly being carried by the trailer. Of course, beer, nicely arranged next to the rear doors. Has anyone ever seen beer cases? Weight is known to without appropriate support or straps. Those by then, bottles would be broken. After arriving in Atlanta, there's the first line of the song, band hip brakes. Discovered he was airless. That sounds dramatic, but trucks actually employed a triple valve air brake in the 1970s. Systems. If the air in a truck ran out, in fact, the brakes would lock up, not fail. A more peculiar element is when Sheriff 3 men are ambushed by Justice at an abandoned vehicle. They can't seem to hear either his footsteps or his car pulling up, but it is evident to them that the small click of closing a cigarette lighter. It's almost cartoonish. Also, there is a tiny but amusing geographical confusion. Fairness persistently claims to be from Texarkana. Bowie County is home to Texas. However, the sheriff's vehicle prominently displays a decal for in reality. Montague County is 6 counties distant. When fans saw, they had a good giggle over that. These little discrepancies may not alter the film, However, they do demonstrate how filming such action that moves quickly can result in minor but obvious idiots. Fools who weren't incredibly dumb. A few alleged errors in the Bandit and Smokey aren't actually mistakes at all if you examine them more closely. For instance, individuals frequently inquire about how bandits could install a CB and purchase a card at radio and purchase personalized plates all in a few hours. However, it's simple to ignore that the timeline of the film is centered on a plot that moves quickly and not every little detail is displayed on the screen. The race they intend to compete in is the following day, thus it's reasonable to suppose he had enough time to finish it. An additional the CB channel is the disputed error misunderstanding. Snowman and Bandit decide toss odd channels and alternate between them each time whenever they speak. Some folks are curious about how everybody else, including Sheriff Justice, random truckers, could quickly locate without looking for them. However, simply because they are not visible to us turning dials imply that it didn't occur. Next is Thea Police Chief's statement to another the Mulberry Bridges officer been 6 months in ruin. Some claim it isn't feasible because a police officers ought to be aware of that already. His own space. But the film manages to fairly obvious that this specific the cop isn't particularly intelligent on the force. One more alleged error occurs after Carrie is dropped off by Bandit at the eatery. Later, he discovers her driving his Trans Am, leaving admirers to ponder how the keys were given to her. The solution is straightforward. The car was most likely hotwired by her. It could seem improbable, yet that's a component of her playful and unpredictable nature personality. Some enthusiasts even made the observation that the bandit may lawfully possess carried the Coors beer if he would simply obtain a permit. Nonetheless, that would have the entire story was wrecked. The excitement arrived from engaging in unlawful activity. Absent that risk, there wouldn't be any drama or chase, and no film. These incidents serve as a reminder that not all story holes must be filled. A few are what provide excitement to the narrative. The exposing errors and minor details. Some idiots were less rational and more about the footage that was captured. Theus an example. The Trans Am speedometer consistently displays the same miles regardless of Bandit's driving distance, and igniting the key remains in the off position at all times. When the Snowman and Bandit open Thea warehouse door containing a stack of Coors boxes, the containers appear full and heavy, but when they're struck by the forklift, they read clearly empty, despite the sound of glass shattering. The CB radio comes next. Error. When Bandit and Buford converse not pressing over the radio, Buford the speak button, and he's even speaking into the microphone incorrectly. Bandit wouldn't have heard in real life. Something. Additionally, the Trans Am swaps between various wheels during the film. The boys crossing of the Texas state line. The vehicle's wheels are honeycombed from the model from 1976, but in other images, they abruptly transformed into snowflakes. Wheels from 1977. Additionally, in the scene with the bridge jump, the ramp that was used is actually visible. Start the vehicle. An obvious indication of a film magic. One further minor detail is that when the bandit is pursued across by the police cars, similar bridge, but they don't fly as well as he does the automobile did before. It's obvious that their stunts were shot in a different way. In a certain scene, Buford discusses a CB with Sheriff Burford, despite the fact that Burford is using Apple's radio. Two systems that were unable to interact in person, and keenly another thing caught the attention of fans. When the bandit's hand is seen altering the CB, it's obviously a stand-in for channels. Burt the ones that were hairy on Reynolds' hands, they are not his. Right before Snowman crashes into the motorcycles, one of them has a flat tire already, indicating that it was merely a prop, and after that there's a clear during the initial chase, the cars switched. AA Pontiac Lemon replaces the Dodge Coronet mid-scene. The noises weren't even ideal. As soon as the truck arrives there's a deep hum coming from a two-stroke motor, but initially, clearly, it's a four-stroke. And this is one that continues to make admirers giggle. When Buford understands that he was wrongfully arrested, Moose Idiot, the man at the RV scene eyes in overdub. In fact, he said Moose, although it was obviously altered. Explanations. The identical issue recurs in Section 2. At last, as Big Enos takes off his aircraft, then douses the throng with his goggles, and orange paint are hilariously upside down. These even the smallest nuances make Smokey, and even more entertaining to watch is the bandit. crew camera secrets, and reflections. In many images in which Carrie and Bandit are operating the renowned black Trans Am, the camera's top is readily visible that reflected in the gleaming automobile door. Although it happens quickly, once you realize it, it's difficult to overlook. In the scene with the convoy, while hiding amid the trucks, Bandit another surprise is coming. As the van line's truck pulls over to allow the when a Bandit pulls out, you can be sure that when the stunt coordinator leans out of the window on the passenger side, he's indicating to the motorist that moving is safe. It tests you'll lose the moment if you blink, but it demonstrates how interactive these scenes were. One another little blunder occurs when the snowman is flung out of a bar. When the doors open, for a moment, a face emerges on the standing outside on the right side. However, when the camera cuts once more, that individual has entirely disappeared. Most likely, it was a member of the staff is ready to assist with the stunt. Additionally, there's an odd look moment close to the movie's conclusion. When Snowman is passed by the Bandit on a bend and the trooper's vehicle circles, the Trans Am's double image moves throughout the screen. It appears to be the vehicle is bouncing off the lens of the camera, or perhaps a piece of safety glass is positioned before it. There's not a bug in the film. It serves as a reminder of how near the camera caught the action. And this is followed by the scene with the snowman and a motorcycle cop conversing. Take a look. If you look attentively, you'll see two sizable studios lights that bounce off the police officer's shiny helmet and the chrome air of the truck cleaner. It's among those tiny moments behind the scenes that unintentionally entered the film. However, not only that, but the film also had numerous geographical misunderstandings that make you question whether anyone was looking at the map. Geographic errors. When it regarding instructions, Smokey and the Bandit undoubtedly made some mistakes. In one instance, the devil with the silver tongue inquires as to whether Bandit is on Interstate 82 traveling in the direction of Fayetteville, and Bandit remarks indeed. The lack of an interstate is the issue. Fayetteville is located on 82. The appropriate US 71 would have been the route. A lengthy, winding road through the mountains that genuinely moves in the other direction, nearly 5 hours in the wrong direction. Later on, a helicopter pilot in the movie states, "I've picked up the Bandit traveling east on 95. That's an additional confusion because north and south. Interstate 95 travels along not east and west, but Georgia's coast. It would have been around 250 miles away. Where the Bandit was in reality. And as though not only that, but some of the Arkansas clearly, Georgia was used to film certain sequences that a purported roadblock in Arkansas, a Georgia state highway sign is seen in the distance. Even more amusing when, according to reports, Sheriff Justice is waiting. The institution is located close to the Mississippi border. Redden Elementary is behind him, which is located in Georgia's DeKalb County, east of Atlanta. Dye's Son is the location of another shot. Arkansas's county even displays a genuine estate sign for Georgia's Clayton County. For a film about quickness and accuracy, without a doubt, the map work was inaccurate. Have you ever seen any of these idiots while viewing the Bandit and Smokey, or did they fly right past you? Distribute your opinions in the space provided below, and remember to hit like, subscribe, and watch this space for more amazing tales from the interesting history of Hollywood. I'll see you later.